Ethan never imagined a simple rescue could shatter his entire life. When he was walking home on a freezing night, he found a tiny, trembling puppy abandoned on the roadside. Weak, fragile, and fighting to survive, believing fate had placed it in his path. He carried it home, certain he had saved a helpless life. But the very next morning, Ethan's relief turned to shock. The puppy wasn't acting like any ordinary dog. It moved with uncanny precision, stared with intelligent, glowing eyes, and revealed instincts no young pup should have. What Ethan uncovered next would shake him to his core and leave the world speechless. The night was quiet, the kind of stillness that wrapped the neighborhood like a blanket. Ethan walked slowly along the dimly lit street, his hands tucked deep into his jacket pockets. The day had been long, filled with the monotony of work and the emptiness of routine. He had no idea his life was about to change forever. Just as he turned the corner by the old wooden fence, a faint sound reached his ears. It wasn't the rustle of leaves or the hum of distant traffic. It was softer, weaker, almost a cry. Ethan froze, straining to hear. There it was again, a tiny whimper, high-pitched and desperate, as though pleading for help. His heart skipped a beat. He moved toward the sound, his eyes scanning the shadows. At first, he saw nothing but grass and broken pavement. But then he spotted it. A small shape curled against the cold ground. Ethan crouched, his breath catching. It was a border collie puppy no bigger than his palm, its frail body trembling violently. The little creature lifted its head and their eyes met. Glossy, tearful eyes reflected the streetlight, silently begging for comfort. Ethan felt his chest tighten. For a long moment, he stayed still, torn between surprise and concern. He glanced around the street, hoping to spot an owner or a mother dog nearby. But the night was empty. No footsteps, no voices, no shadows moving. The tiny whimpers filled the silence, pulling at his heartstrings. "Hey there, little one," Ethan whispered, his voice gentle. He extended his hand slowly, careful not to scare the trembling pup. The puppy hesitated, then pressed its cold, wet nose against his palm. In that fragile touch, Ethan felt a silent plea. "Don't leave me." His throat tightened. The puppy tried to shift closer, but its body gave out, collapsing against the grass. Alarm surged through Ethan. He couldn't just walk away. The creature was too weak, too fragile to survive the night alone. Scooping it up, he was startled by how weightless it felt, as if it were nothing more than fur and bones. He held it close against his chest, feeling the faint flutter of its heartbeat. "It's okay," he murmured softly. "I've got you now." The puppy whimpered once more but didn't resist. Instead, it buried its head against his jacket, clinging to the warmth. Ethan looked around one last time, searching for any sign that this little one belonged to someone. But the street remained still. The only sound was the distant hum of the city. With no collar, no leash, and no clue where it had come from, he knew one thing for certain. If he left it there, it wouldn't make it until morning. He exhaled, adjusting his grip. "All right," he whispered, "you're coming home with me." With careful steps, he turned toward his apartment, carrying not just a puppy, but a promise he didn't yet understand. The walk back felt different. Every few steps, Ethan glanced down at the small bundle in his arms. The puppy's tiny body pressed close, its trembling slowly easing as the warmth of his jacket enveloped it. Its eyes fluttered shut, though its little paw clung weakly to his sleeve, as if afraid he might let go. Ethan's heart swelled in a way he hadn't felt in years. It was strange. This fragile life he had found by chance now depended entirely on him. And though the responsibility was sudden, it didn't feel like a burden. It felt right. When he reached his door, Ethan paused, cradling the sleeping puppy for a moment longer. The world outside was dark and cold, but inside there was warmth waiting. As he unlocked the door and stepped into the familiar space of his apartment, he knew instinctively that nothing would ever be the same again. This wasn't just an encounter with a stray. It was the beginning of something extraordinary. The next day, he would learn just how unbelievable it truly was. Ethan closed the door behind him, the faint click echoing in the quiet apartment. He set his keys on the counter, still cradling the tiny bundle against his chest. The puppy stirred faintly, a soft whimper breaking the silence. "Don't worry," he whispered. "You're safe now." He gently laid the puppy on the couch, arranging a blanket beneath it. The little one looked impossibly small against the vast cushions. Ethan rose and moved quickly to the kitchen. No dog food, of course. The best he could manage was a bowl of warm milk. He placed the bowl carefully on the floor. At first, the puppy didn't move. Ethan dipped his finger into the milk and held it near the pup's nose. Slowly, it lifted its head, sniffed hesitantly, then licked. Encouraged, Ethan guided it closer until the puppy began lapping at the bowl with surprising eagerness. Relief washed over him. When it finished, Ethan noticed milk droplets clinging to its whiskers. He smiled for the first time that night, grabbing a tissue to gently wipe its face. "Good boy," he murmured. After feeding, the pup curled into the blanket. He sat on the floor nearby, just watching. The way the little one's paws twitched in its sleep made him smile. But there was something else, too. He leaned closer, studying the tiny creature. Its black and white fur had a strange sheen that caught the light oddly. And those eyes, when they had looked at him earlier, had seemed far too expressive for something so small. As the night grew colder, Ethan prepared a proper bed, arranging an old towel near the heater. He lifted the pup gently and set it down, but almost instantly a whine escaped its throat. The sound was weak but filled with desperation. The puppy crawled unsteadily back toward him. Ethan's chest tightened. "You want to stay with me? Huh?" He lifted the pup again, placing it back on the couch beside him. The whining stopped immediately. Hours slipped by. Near midnight, he carried it into his bedroom, intending to lay it at the foot of the bed. But as he settled in, he felt a faint scratching at his arm. Opening his eyes, he saw the puppy crawling upward, determined to reach the crook of his arm. Ethan chuckled softly. "You're stubborn for someone so small." He lifted it gently, tucking it beside him. Almost instantly, the pup's breathing slowed into steady sleep. But then something unusual happened. In the darkened room, with only the faint glow of the street lamp outside, Ethan noticed the puppy's eyes flutter open briefly. For a split second, they seemed to shimmer faintly, catching light that wasn't there. He blinked, wondering if exhaustion was playing tricks on him. When he looked again, the pup's eyes were closed. He exhaled, shaking his head. "I'm seeing things," he muttered. Still, unease prickled at the back of his mind. By morning, Ethan awoke to the feeling of warmth pressed against his cheek. The puppy had crawled onto the pillow during the night, nestled close as though guarding him. He smiled faintly, scratching behind its ears. "Looks like you've already made yourself at home." The pup yawned, nudging his chin with its nose. For the first time in years, Ethan felt something stir inside him. It was hope. The first rays of sunlight slipped through the blinds. He slid out of bed carefully, not wanting to disturb the puppy. He moved toward the kitchen, and moments later, a soft patter followed him. He turned and froze. There it was, wobbling determinedly down the hallway on its tiny legs. Ethan frowned in surprise. "How did you get down?" he whispered. He was certain he had placed the pup high on the bed. It was far too small to jump safely. Yet here it was. In the kitchen, Ethan placed a shallow bowl of milk on the floor. Instead of fumbling clumsily, the creature approached carefully, sniffed, then drank with perfect control. No splashing, no mess. Each lap of its tongue was neat, deliberate. Ethan crouched, studying it closely. "You're different," he murmured. The puppy lifted its gaze, and for a fleeting moment, Ethan swore there was an intelligence far deeper than instinct. The day unfolded with more peculiarities. While Ethan sat at his desk sipping coffee, he noticed the puppy had climbed onto the couch, something he didn't think it was capable of yet. It was perched on the cushion, staring out the window with quiet intensity, as if observing the world. Later that morning, Ethan accidentally dropped his pen. It rolled under the coffee table, out of reach. Before he could bend down to retrieve it, the puppy trotted over, pawed at the pen, and nudged it forward until it rolled back into the open. Ethan blinked, stunned. He laughed nervously. "Did you just help me?" The pup tilted its head as though acknowledging the question. Goosebumps prickled his skin. Puppies didn't do that. As the day stretched on, the feeling grew stronger. Every action from the little creature seemed purposeful. It was as though it were learning him, studying him. That night, as Ethan sat on the couch, the puppy curled against him. He stroked its fur gently. Lost in thought. "What are you?" he whispered. He had set out to rescue a helpless animal. But by the second day, he realized the truth was far more complicated. Over the next several days, the puppy, which Ethan had started calling Lucky, transformed his quiet apartment. Lucky rarely barked. Instead, he seemed to communicate through his movements and his eyes. Ethan found himself talking aloud constantly. "You're the best listener I've ever had," he chuckled one evening. To his surprise, the pup wagged its tiny tail as though it understood. Small, curious moments continued to build. Lucky seemed to anticipate his actions, hopping off the couch seconds before Ethan decided to get up. On one particularly chilly morning, Ethan opened the door to find his neighbor, Mrs. Davis, watering her plants. She spotted the puppy immediately. "Oh, Ethan, where did you find that little thing?" He explained the story briefly. Mrs. Davis bent down, trying to coax the pup toward her. But Lucky shrank back, hiding behind Ethan's leg. His eyes never left hers. Sharp and unblinking, Mrs. Davis straightened slowly, frowning. "Strange, puppies usually love me." She forced a smile. "Well, I suppose he's very attached to you. The comment lingered with Ethan. He realized the neighbor was right. Lucky had no interest in anyone else. The bond was exclusive. The strangeness deepened one afternoon. Focused on a report, Ethan muttered in frustration, "I need my pen." He hadn't realized he'd spoken aloud until he looked up and saw Lucky nudging the pen across the table with his nose. Ethan froze. "No way," he whispered. The pup looked up at him, tail wagging softly. "Did you just respond to me?" His heart pounded. That night, Ethan dreamed restlessly. He saw Lucky standing at the edge of a dark forest, his glowing eyes piercing through the shadows. When he awoke, his heart raced. He turned to find the pup staring at him intently, as though it knew exactly what he had seen. Still, the bond between them only grew stronger. Ethan took Lucky to the park daily, where he moved with uncanny grace. People noticed. A teenager filming on his phone muttered, "That's the smartest puppy I've ever seen." Ethan tugged gently at the leash, unease gnawing at him. He didn't want attention. He didn't want anyone else to see what he was beginning to understand. This was no ordinary pet. That evening, as Daniel sat by the window, Lucky climbed onto his lap and rested his head against his chest. He stroked its fur slowly, whispering, "You're not just a dog, are you?" The little one pressed a paw against his arm, the same gesture it had made that first night. Whatever this creature was, it was his now, and he knew one thing with certainty: he would never let it go. The evening had started peacefully. Ethan sat on the couch with Lucky nestled against his leg. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees. The sound of raised voices outside broke the calm, followed by the sharp clang of a trash can toppling over. His pulse quickened. Lucky lifted his head immediately. His ears twitched. Before Ethan could even stand, Lucky leapt off the couch, positioning himself between his owner and the door. A low growl rumbled from his chest. Ethan blinked in disbelief. He had never heard that sound before. It was deep, resonant, nothing like the whimper of a young pup. The knock at the door came suddenly, loud and aggressive. Ethan jumped. "Who is it?" he called. But no answer came. The knock turned into pounding. Lucky's growl deepened. Before Ethan could dial for help, the door shuddered violently under a heavy kick. The wood splintered, the lock gave way, and the door swung open. Two men stormed inside, their faces shadowed beneath hoods. One held a crowbar, the other a glinting knife. Ethan froze, paralyzed by terror. Before he could react, Lucky launched forward with a speed that defied reason. His small body became a blur of black and white, his growl erupting into a snarl so powerful it made both intruders stumble. The man with the knife swung wildly, but Lucky was faster. He leapt high, his jaws snapping inches from the man's wrist, forcing him to drop the weapon with a startled cry. The second man raised the crowbar, but Lucky darted aside with impossible agility. His glowing eyes locked onto the intruder, and the man hesitated, his confidence faltering. Ethan stood frozen, watching in awe. This wasn't the clumsy defense of a scared puppy. This was strategy. Lucky moved with precision, anticipating each strike, driving the men back. Their panicked glances confirmed their fear. "What the hell is that thing?" one shouted. "Forget it, let's get out of here." Within moments, they fled. Lucky stood at the threshold, chest heaving, his eyes still glowing faintly. Slowly, the growl faded. He turned back toward Ethan, and with a quiet whimper, he leapt into Ethan's trembling arms, pressing his head against his chest. Ethan's heart pounded as he held the tiny creature. A border collie puppy had disarmed a man with a knife and sent two intruders running in terror. No ordinary animal could have done that. Ethan swallowed hard, his hands shaking as he whispered, "You saved me." Lucky lifted his head, licking Ethan's hand gently. He didn't know what Lucky truly was, but tonight had made one thing clear. This was something extraordinary. Ethan barely slept, even after the police came and left. His mind remained fixed on the puppy. He couldn't shake the images, the glowing eyes, the unearthly growl, the impossible speed. The next morning, he drove straight to the veterinary clinic. In the waiting room, a large German shepherd barked fiercely at Lucky. Instead of cowering, Lucky simply stared back. Within seconds, the shepherd whimpered and turned away. Dr. Collins, a seasoned veterinarian, greeted Ethan warmly. "So, this is the little one you rescued?" she asked, lifting Lucky onto the exam table. Ethan nodded. "Yes, but he's not like other puppies." Dr. Collins began the exam. Her brows furrowed. These canines are sharper than normal. Almost predatory." Next came the stethoscope. Her eyes widened. "His heartbeat is strong, very strong." She moved to his limbs. "Extraordinary flexibility, muscles unusually dense. I've never seen a pup like this." "Is something wrong with him?" Ethan asked anxiously. Dr. Collins shook her head slowly. "Not wrong, just different. It's possible he has some unique hybrid lineage. But even that doesn't explain everything. Ethan swallowed hard and blurted it out. He stopped a break-in last night. 2 men. He fought them off. Dr. Collins blinked, stunned. This tiny puppy? Ethan nodded. He moved like he knew what to do. He growled so deep it froze them. And his eyes, they glowed. The room fell silent. Dr. Collins set down her pen. That's not normal, she admitted softly, and it's not something science can easily explain. Animals sometimes carry mysteries we don't understand. But whatever this little one is bonded to you in a way I've never seen. You're not just his owner, Ethan, you're his anchor. Driving home, Ethan's mind spun. Hybrid lineage, something more. None of it explained what he had witnessed. But as Lucky sat quietly in the passenger seat, eyes fixed on him, Ethan realized the search for answers mattered less than the truth in front of him. He reached over, stroking Lucky's fur. No matter what you are, he whispered, you're my family now. For a few days, Ethan tried to convince himself that life could return to normal. But deep down, he knew a storm was building. It broke on a crisp evening during a walk through the park. From the gloom emerged 3 stray dogs. Lean and hungry, they fanned out, circling Ethan and Lucky. Ethan's pulse spiked. He tried to scoop Lucky into his arms. But the pup resisted, stepping forward with confidence. His tiny frame stiffened, a growl rumbling so deep it seemed impossible. One stray lunged. Daniel shouted in terror, but Lucky was already in motion. He moved like a shadow, darting with impossible speed. His small body collided with the lunging dog, his snarl ripping through the night. The larger dog yelped, stumbling back. The other strays faltered as Lucky circled them, his glowing eyes fixed on theirs with an unnatural focus. This wasn't a puppy defending itself. This was a predator in disguise. Within moments, the pack scattered into the trees. The park fell silent. Ethan collapsed onto a nearby bench, his body shaking. That was impossible, he whispered. He looked down at Lucky, who had hopped onto the bench beside him. What are you? He asked, his voice breaking, but the pup only nestled closer, resting a paw on his arm. The familiar gesture that had come to mean everything. The morning after the park incident, Daniel knew he could no longer hide from the truth. That fear became reality sooner than he expected. During their next walk, he noticed people staring. A jogger slowed as they passed. That's some dog you've got, the jogger muttered, almost suspicious. Ethan forced a laugh. Just Lucky, he said. Later, a group of children playing soccer stopped. One boy pointed. Look, his eyes, they shine. Another girl tugged her friend's arm. He's kinda scary. Ethan's heart sank. He scooped Lucky into his arms and walked away, feeling the weight of their stares burning into his back. He knew it was only a matter of time before whispers turned into questions. The world didn't embrace the unexplained. It dissected it, caged it. That night, Dr. Collins called. Ethan, I can't explain this. His DNA doesn't match any known domestic breed. There are markers, anomalies I've never seen before. If I didn't know better, I'd say he's something entirely new. Ethan's grip tightened on the phone. New? The vet hesitated. You need to be careful. If others find out, they'll want to study him. People won't see him as a pet. They'll see him as an experiment. Ethan's chest tightened. He glanced at Lucky, who pressed a paw against his arm. No, Ethan whispered fiercely into the phone. He's not an experiment. He's mine, and I'll protect him with everything I have. When the call ended, he knelt beside Lucky, burying his face in the pup's fur. Whatever you are, he murmured, I'll keep you safe. That's my promise. Ethan's oldest friend, Chris, visited that weekend. He eyed Lucky with open suspicion. You know this isn't normal, right? Chris said bluntly. Dogs don't stare like that. I don't know what he is, but he's not safe. Ethan bristled, clutching Lucky protectively. Not safe for who? He saved me, Chris, twice. Chris shook his head. I'm just saying be careful. Someone's going to notice, and then you'll lose him. After Chris left, Ethan sat in silence. His friend's words echoed, but instead of fear, they ignited resolve. He looked into Lucky's steady eyes. They don't see you the way I do, he said firmly. They're afraid of what they don't understand. But I know you, I trust you, and I won't let anyone take you from me. Lucky leaned into his chest, letting out a low, soothing sound. From that moment, Ethan stopped living in fear. He became intentional about their life together. Walks were shorter, routes chosen with care, not out of shame, but out of protection. He spoke to him constantly, not as one talks to an animal, but as one talks to a friend. One night, as rain pattered against the windows, Ethan sat with Lucky curled in his lap. You may not be ordinary, he said, his voice thick with emotion. You may not even be what the world calls a dog. But to me, you're everything. You're my family. I thought I saved you that night on the street. But the truth is, you saved me. Lucky lifted his head, pressing his nose gently against Ethan's chin. Ethan exhaled, closing his eyes. His love for Lucky was stronger than his fear. He wouldn't hide him in shame, but he would shield him fiercely from the world. In that quiet moment, Ethan realized something profound. The unbelievable didn't have to be explained. It only had to be cherished. Weeks passed, and Ethan's life took on a rhythm he had never known. Where his days once felt empty, they now pulsed with warmth and purpose. Lucky was always there, a quiet, loyal presence. The fear that once haunted him had been replaced by gratitude. He stopped asking what Lucky was and started focusing on who he was, the one who had chosen him. The one who had transformed his life forever. One evening, as the sun set, Ethan sat on the balcony with Lucky at his side. The city stretched before them, alive with noise and light, but it felt like they were the only two souls in the world. Ethan scratched gently behind Lucky's ears. "You know," he whispered, "I thought I saved you that night. But the truth is, you saved me, you gave me hope again." Lucky looked up at him with those luminous eyes, pressing his paw against Ethan's chest, the gesture that had defined their bond from the very beginning. Tears stung Ethan's eyes, but they were born of gratitude. In that simple touch, he felt everything: loyalty, trust, love, and something even greater, destiny. Whatever Lucky truly was, Ethan knew it didn't matter. The world might never understand, but Ethan no longer needed answers. He had found something rare, something extraordinary, and it was his to protect. His heart swelled with certainty. No matter what came, no matter what the future held, he and Lucky would face it together. 80.2s